Thank you for staying with us. We are still on security this morning, the security situation, particularly in parts of the north of Nigeria. Colonel Francis Okosun joins us this morning. He's a retired military officer and security consultant. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Colonel.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm pretty sure you listened to the conversation with the Honorable, that my colleagues in Abuja had with him. What would be your own take, particularly on our approach so far? It would seem like, some would have thought, hey, we hadn't heard this spate of unrest or insecurity in a while, and it seems all of a sudden it's coming back. Do you think it's coming back, or it's just one of those things that we have to deal with from time to time?
No, I think it's just following the pattern that you should predict. We had so much activities in the recent past, politicking, elections, and all that. And then I think that all those are ebbing now. So to be status quo, go back to status quo. Am I surprised that this is happening? No, I am not. Because the issues have not yet been addressed as well they should be. The gentleman who spoke before me was talking about intelligence, information sharing, moles and all that. That's a critical aspect of this fight that we have not yet dealt with in the correct fashion and manner. Now, I have always come up with my perspective, my approach, my suggestion. You see, this segment, this part of the country, Zamfara, is assigned to certain security agencies, the police, the DSS. There are police officers responsible for this ground, DSS officers who are responsible for this area. Are they on top of their game? Do they cover the ground? A DSS officer in Zamfara should be able to give you actionable information on every square inch of ground upon which you can plan and execute operations. If that is not properly done, then we will be left with the situation we have at hand. I am in sympathy with the people there because they work moving around in circles, motions, no movement. There is a lot of insincerity. If we are serious, we should be able to isolate this problem, reward hard work, and deal with malfeasance. The man whose responsibility or call it is to oversee a particular area should be made to answer if something goes wrong on his watch. Until we do that, we'll be dancing around.
This conversation that you are having with us right now, Colonel, it's not something we're hearing for the first time. We're not hearing this afresh. It's not coming to us as a shock. This information, this conversation around intelligence gathering, people giving or not giving information to security agencies, has been on for quite a while. There are those who would also indicate that, giving information to security agencies is sometimes risky because they give information, nothing gets done, and then there is some kind of reprisal on the communities. So how then do you think this can be handled, particularly from a policy level?
I just helped you with that. I said the director of state service in Zamfara is responsible for that state. Now, why are there these lacunas in that state? It is he who is to be So it's the who is to account for that, who is to respond to that.
My apologies. I ask that question, Colonel, because we're not, this thing that you're saying, what you're saying right now, we're not saying it for the first time. We've heard this over and over again, and it would seem like it's either dead silence from the DSS, as you have said, and then nothing gets done, but people keep losing their lives and livelihoods. So what then can be done? Are we helpless with or without any comments or responses from these people? You also talked about the police. Is it that they're powerless to do anything, or they don't just want to do their jobs?
Okay. Now, if you are the director of state service in Zamfara, and a thing like this happens, and you are asked, and you don't respond properly, and you are kicked out, the next person who comes there will not be in a hurry to commit the same offense that you have committed. I am surprised that you have police that would not open up to say what their challenges are. If they come up and openly say what their challenges are, or for that matter, have an honorable police officer who say, I am resigning because I've not got the things to work with. We have to address this. Sir, I am one of those who've come to you to say this same thing that I am saying now. It's not the first time, and it won't be the last time you hear of it. If you do not punish malfeasance, you are going to be having this thing recalled.
So whose job will it be to call these fellows to order? In response to that, you may also want to speak to whether or not the governors in each of these states, particularly Zamfara State and in Borno State, where we also hear, that unfortunate incident happened. Do they have any role? Do the governors have a role to play in all of these?
I am not a big fan of these governors as chief security officers of their states for very many reasons, not least of which is the fact that they are incapacitated in terms of knowledge of security. They do not seem to have the political will to deal with these issues when they occur. But I am saying that if you fire the DSS and police officer in a particular place and replace them, the next set of people will act differently. That is what is so simple, but we don't seem to see it that way. We don't seem to see it that way. An occurrence, murder occurs in a place, and all you hear is that we're investigating, we'll bring the culprits to book. Youth corpers are kidnapped in Zamfara. And some TRO comes out to say that the CP is determined to fish out the culprits. And it continues like this. It continues like that. We cannot continue like that. Something's got to be done differently. So and that's what I am suggesting.
Colonel, when you say someone needs to be fired, on whose table does the buck stop to ensure that these things get done prestissimo?
Who appoints the DSS to that position? If it's the DG of the DSS, he is the one to take the decision. If he hasn't taken the decision, the political authority that places that DGSS should act.
Well, Colonel, I wonder if that is as simple as that. I'd like to follow up on that, but let's quickly look at another part of the conversation that is, not giving as much attention as it should. In Zamfara, to be precise, where we started this conversation off from, about some months ago, gun runners, those who are supplying weapons to the bandits, on 2 occasions, a number of them were arrested. I wonder if that is not supposed to, isn't that supposed to provide some form of lead in terms of investigation into the source of arms to the bandits comes from? Isn't that supposed to provide some leads to, the origin and by extension, checking it from that place?
It is an open secret how these weapons come in. It's an open secret. A lot of studies have been done on proliferation of small arms. We are not short of recommendations. But here again, how are these recommendations acted upon? The borders are porous, you and I know, and the dilemma is even further sharpened now by the situation that we have in Niger. Niger, a country that has been acting as a blocking force for us, is now going to be ambivalent, lethargic, and then these weapons can come in greater quantities. It's not always been the fact that we don't know how these weapons come in. It's the lack of will and capacity and ability to deal with the situation. Who says they don't know how the AK-47s came into Nigeria? Of course they know how it came in, through the Sahel, Libya, and all those places. But you have the capacity to deal with, to checkmate it, to block it. I mean, in Ajegunle in Lagos, you have AK-47s. How has the police in Ajegunle been able to locate, isolate, and deal with these issues? Rather than deal with that, they will go about on the streets to arrest innocent people at 9 o'clock in the night. I mean, this is tangential, but I'm saying the issues should be dealt with as they occur. Use intelligence available. If the man responsible is not doing their job, deal with the man.
But, Colonel, is it that simple? These weapons are sophisticated, more sophisticated, in fact, than the ones wielded by men of the Nigerian army that are supposed to protect our territorial integrity. I'm more specific about these suspects that are nabbed. Upon interrogation, perhaps maybe other forms of extreme interrogation, shouldn't they be providing more information as to those who are funding the influx of these weapons into the country, giving identities, so to speak?
Okay, sitting where I am right now, it would be ambitious for me to tell you how they can deal with that. But one thing is clear. When you carry out investigations, interrogations, you get information, you get the leads, you follow up on the leads. If these leads have been provided or have been made available, the interrogating agency or agencies ought to further exploit such advantage or advantages. If that is, I want you to read my lips. If those advantages are not being exploited, then somebody is not doing their job. And that person not doing their job, or those persons, should be held accountable. Do you want me to tell you that the DGSS, the DSS should not be called to answer to certain questions, given what we are seeing? And if that were the case, should he keep his job? I don't know the gentleman, but whoever he is, should he keep his job? It is simple. It is very simple. It can be dealt with. It can be dealt with.
Also, in Katsina, recently, the governor had cause to tell the NBA to call its members to order to stop helping bandits evade justice. How much of a problem is that in the fight against the activities of these bandits in Nigeria's north?
I have a few lawyers in the family, and I ask them sometimes, I say, why does a lawyer take up a case when he knows this man is a murderer, he's murdered somebody? Why, a man who glaringly has killed, why do you go support the person? They'll tell you it's law. Now, I don't want to be drawn into the judiciary in Nigeria, because some of the things that a layman like I have seen or heard as concerns the judiciary, it's mind-boggling. So if the NBA has been admonished, I think it's left for the NBA members to take heed and do a soul searching. That's all I can say about that.
I'd also like you to speak to the concern that men of the Nigerian army or the bandits, the insurgents, have superior firepower to men of the Nigerian army, which, has been reflected in, much of the attacks, particularly the ones from Niger State in recent times. How much of a problem is that, or more importantly, what's the inside story that you can give us about why weaponry is not prioritized in the fight against insurgency?
Okay, I can tell you for free that there is a first-line scale of weapons that any size unit is entitled to. Sometimes, even in advanced armies, you could have deficiencies and inadequacies, but the standard table of organization and equipment guarantees that a certain scale of weaponry, arms and ammunition is allocated. Now, when I hear it said that the bandits have sophisticated weaponry, I begin to wonder what this sophistries is all about. Now, you have the basic rifles. Whatever the rifle might be, there are many rifles. The basic rifle is the automatic rifle. What is commonplace today is the AK-47. Now, you have support weapons in the form of rocket-propelled grenades. I do not know machine guns, stuff like that. They are organic to the small size units like platoons and companies, and therefore battalions. I do not know how or what other weapons the bandits will carry. Anti-aircraft weapons, yes, that is also available within the army. But you see, what does a bandit need the anti-aircraft weapon for immediately? He needs it, but immediately he'll be equipped with first-line weapons, rifles, grenades, machine guns. So when people say that the bandits have sophisticated weapons, more sophisticated weapons, I want a better definition of that. Because I don't think they carry tanks. I mean, bandits cannot carry tanks. Tanks are independent. They are in support of fighting forces. The infantry battalion doesn't own tanks. Tanks are allotted in support of battalions. I can say certainly that bandits don't have tanks. What is the sophisticated weapons they are talking about? Do they have aeroplanes? Do they have fighter aeroplanes? So people should be clearer about these things they say.
Well, you know, there are questions about that. Talking about this heavy artillery, because when you say these bandits don't have weapons, sophisticated, equipment and stuff like that, there are those who would always reference the kind of things that Boko Haram struggle with and even display on the internet, but that's perhaps talk for another day. Allow me to take your perspectives on this story we opened up this morning with, when a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria made a case that soldiers of the Nigerian army operating checkpoints around Ikeja was responsible for the killing of his aide in Lagos on August 5. Of course, as my colleague said earlier in the day, the military has since come out to say, investigations are ongoing. But in a preliminary kind of report from the Nigeria police, that information put out says that it is something done by soldiers in Lagos. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, because one of the information out there is that the soldiers mounted roadblocks or checkpoints on the roads in Lagos. I thought that was the exclusive preserve of the police. But what are your thoughts as someone who's been in the military before? Okay,
roadblock duties are integral to internal security operations in the military. Internal security operation is not embarked upon unless authorized, and it will be at the behest, at the request of the police when they think they are unable to cope with the situation. Now, there will be operation order released authorizing the emplacement of roadblocks or checkpoints. If such was available, if such was made available and you had a checkpoint or roadblock, then those soldiers will be acting within the orders of their superior authority. If, on the other hand, no such exists or existed and the roadblock was mounted, those soldiers will be arrested and should be made to account. So if you're asking me whether roadblocks and checkpoints are things that military men should should they embark upon? Yes, they should. They can embark upon it if they are authorized, if it is encoded in an operation order. And the operation order will be pursuant to assisting the civil authority in the restoration of peace and security.
Does that order also empower them to kill?
There would not be. Are you asking if that would empower them to kill an innocent person?
Because that's clearly what happened in this case. This fellow was abiding by every question that he was being asked, and he was still found killed with bullets right in his body.
All right. If a soldier has killed an unarmed, a soldier has killed someone who does not present a clear and present danger to their operation, that soldier will be charged. There are extant laws to deal with such, and I know that the army will not shield any soldier who was in that recalcitrant.
So far, what we have heard from the military is investigations are ongoing, and there are many Nigerians who are already doubtful and say, hey, we heard this before. How soon, I mean, if you can do this within the next 30 seconds, how soon do you think we should hear about this from the military? Because there are issues, God forbid that tempers will rise over this one, because we've been having, quite some prominence of soldiers on the streets of Lagos in recent time for one reason or the other. How soon do you think we should be hearing from the military to protect their integrity and the lives of those military men who are doing a human's job?
You're asking the wrong person. How soon is for the commander on the ground to say. However, I want it to be known that, well, you just alluded to that in your last segment of your sentence. These boys are doing a human's job. These boys are doing so much. These boys are going through so much. So if you have one or two cases of people who have fallen out of line, they should be dealt with, but that should not be a barometer to judge the entire army effort towards restoration of peace and security.
And that's the exact reason we asked that question of you, being a retired military officer. Thank you so much for your thoughts this morning. Colonel Francis Okosun is a retired military officer and security consultant. Thank you again for your time and your thoughts.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. So this conversation continues with your own contribution to the program this morning, Kingsley. Oshino, we begin with your tweet. We are only scratching the surface when it comes to insecurities. We need to first fight poverty, unemployment, and income inequalities to start with. If an idle hand is a devil's workshop, then millions of idle hands in Nigeria will create legions of industries.
And this one is from Honorable Alalade. He says, ministers have taken the oath of office. Nigerians expect them to hit the ground running, but we must be cautious of the fact that many of them are taking up new roles and need time to understudy their ministries. Nigerians can't wait for too long. Quick wins, please.
And Professor Enakena says Nigerians must become more vigilant than they have ever been, more resolute to defend her resources being misappropriated, and become common and unified against the forces of elements involved in deliberate impoverishment of the people, and unified against forces in government misappropriating the resources of the people.
No more excuses from governments. Now that the president has a team to work with and implements government policies and programs, it means there is no room for any further excuse in the delivery of the renewed hope agenda to Nigerians. I wish Mr. President and his team resounding success. God bless Nigeria. That is from Hussein, who writes in from Lagos.
And we say an amen to that.
Yeah, so there you go. That is the show today. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye. Thank you. I'm Maope Ogun Yusuf.
Indeed, thank you for watching. I am Bukola Koka.
And have a wonderful and productive day. I'm Ayo Makinde.